complete lockdown starting Wednesday, so which makes it worse.
We're live. Boom, boom.
Wow.
Whoa,
Wow.
we were just talking about German chocolates for no reason.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to another Good Morning Source Gaming. Today I'm your host, Nintenjex, and joining us is Colin Dram, Nintendon,
Right.
and Spazzy D.
Oh, I was going to say something funny, and my funny thing is that right now the only stimulant I'm drinking is coffee and not alcohol. because
Same.
Don't drink, kids.
Same.
Yes.
Gonna be
Well,
good.
I mean, alcohol is a depressant, not a stimulant. It's the opposite of that.
Yeah. I'd be
Either way.
I'd be very concerned if you guys are drinking at 10 in the morning. For you guys. Good Morning Source Gaming doesn't have a pint glass as its logo. It's got a coffee cup.
Yeah,
for a reason.
that's more good evening source of gaming.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really funny because I mean we'll talk more in detail about this later, but I went on like a couple of tirades on Twitter after the Game Awards, and I got like one guy who was trying to like potentially start shit, and he was like, "You mad?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just like drunk." And he's like, "All right, fair enough."
Jeez.
And I was like, glad that worked out.
Glad people are so understanding.
Right.
Yeah.
We should. By the way, the our Sephiroth reaction. The number one comment is that that's not Jonesy. We should put that on. It just needs to be on a shirt.
That's not Jonesy, and it's just the picture of Sephiroth like stabbing Jonesy from a distance.
I'm glad people caught on to that as me doing a goof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good thing as well. Good thing. Yeah, but Sephiroth was obviously a big surprise. But I mean, I guess we'll talk about that in a moment because, of course, the first thing we always do on Good Morning Source Gaming is make sure that we're all doing okay and talk about what we've been up to this week.
Yeah.
What games we've all been playing and all of that jazz.
Zonakin
Right.
asks, "Is mad and drunk the same?" And the answer is, you basically like don't have access to your frontal lobe when you're drinking, especially very heavily, like I was that night. So like you just go off, King. You know,
Yeah,
you just
it's alcohol's a gateway to some of your inner emotions. So if you have some anger bottled up, that'll come out. If you are just kind of genuinely a silly and happy person, that'll come out. It's kind of like you wear your emotions on your sleeve.
Yep.
Fair enough.
Yep. But all right, let's talk about what games we've been playing. And mine's really boring because I've just been doing the same stuff as I did last week, which was Fire Emblem. But I was playing PixelJunk Eden 2, which the review for that went out on Thursday. And
I
that's
played that too, yeah.
That's a pretty good chill game, I think. Like, it sort of goes into that. I called it a Zen game in my review, where it sort of falls into the same category that stuff like Tetris Effect does, where it's all these cool, trippy audio visual stuff, and the gameplay is fairly simple, but it's sort of relaxing and puts you into the zone. And I like it. I think PixelJunk has more actual gameplay than Tetris does, even if it's not as, instantaneously pick up and play as Tetris is, or as well known.
Right.
But I enjoy it, and I encourage people to try that out if they're looking for like a cozy game to play while in bed or something. But that's all. That's basically the only new thing I've been doing this week. What about you, Don?
So I also played PixelJunk Eden 2, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. I finished it yesterday. And it's also, and I need to make note for people who played the original, or at least dived into it when it came back on. Originally, it was released on PlayStation 3. I think this version is like way better, like absolutely, like because here's the thing: with the original, it had some really harsh time limits, and here it seemed to more. So across the levels, there are now various checkpoints, and if you hit a checkpoint, it kind of resets like the amount of time you have, which makes the entire process, like finishing levels, a lot more free flowing.
Okay.
In addition, it also just controls a whole lot nicer because it was a bit more floaty in the original, and I feel that everything that you do here is much precise, and it relies on using moves like a hover and jumping from sport to sport to plant them into the ground, get higher up in the air, and get to the end goal. I feel that like this particular version is like the version to play. It's also like a whole lot of fun. I just enjoyed like the vibe of the game with the music and like the backgrounds. It just all flows like extremely nice and into one package.
Yeah, I think flow's the best way to describe that, because I thought it was like really nicely. You go from like swinging into just free fall to the anti-grav spinning and then launching yourself in a different direction. I really like games that have good flow to them. I think like being able to go at your own pace is really important for video games, and I think this game allows for that. So it's, I don't know, there's something about swinging in games, like in Spider-Man as well, that I just really enjoy. And while this one's obviously not as you don't have as much swinging ability as you would in Spider-Man, what you do have works really well and gets that good momentum and flow going, so that you're eventually launching yourself naturally from one plant to another, picking up the spores on the way, hitting those checkpoints and opening those seeds up by like really well, very precise launches of your character.
Right. So let me think. I don't think there's anything else really particularly to talk about with that game. I mean, you went to most of the important pieces there, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just, once again, love the flow of that game. I just really appreciate it. I think that's the game that I probably played the most this week.
Okay.
Outside of that, I played through a bit, not much, but I played through the game Haven, which is now on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, and I think PC.
Okay.
And Haven is the game made by the people who made Fury, so that boss rush game.
Oh,
Yeah,
people like
but
that.
in this game, it's far more an RPG where you control like these two characters who have this really intense relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And they just try to explore the world, gather resources, and try to go to everyday life. It's a really charming and interesting game. It's the best played with another person, because it actually has, with the two characters in place, it actually has a very substantial co-op feature. But it's totally playable on your own. It's insanely story driven, far more than Fury even was, and Fury already had a really good story to begin with. But they purely focus on already an established relationship and how that builds with all the trials and tribulations on this world over time. There are some tiny things, like some of the gameplay systems don't always flow as well as they probably should, but like this game wins like tons of points of how charming it is. It's a really fun game.
Nice.
Then, obviously, I have my random assortments of like eShop games that I played. I played a game called Lo-Fi Ping Pong.
Okay, is it exactly what it sounds like?
Okay, yeah. No, I've been meaning to check that. Like, honestly, I was looking at that game like a couple days ago and being like, is that something I should check out? And now I will know if it is.
Yeah, Lo-Fi Ping Pong is basically... I didn't expect the way it was, so I thought it was much more like free-flowing with you just playing straight-up ping pong matches, but no. It's actually in disguise a rhythm game where you have to press 3 different buttons, and like your opponent will swing them a certain way, and you have to anticipate them on the beat of the music. And you can only make like 3 mistakes, and if not, it resets the entire song.
Wow.
It looked the trailer for it looked really cool. So interesting.
Yeah, it's only like $4 on the eShop. Yeah. It's actually fairly entertaining. It's pretty hard though. Like the later levels, you have to play with two balls or a ball that disappears in the middle point of the table. But it balances those out with how like the pixel art is really cool, and like the back and forth gameplay, it actually works pretty darn well, I have to say. Then the last thing that I played is a whole bunch of Puyo Puyo Tetris 2.
Nice.
Which it's the follow-up to the original Puyo Puyo Tetris. That's the most important thing you likely need to know. I think what they did well with this particular version of the game is that they made story mode a whole bunch better. Like, the dialogue still drags on for quite a bit, to be honest. But like, there's now a mission structure where it basically like slowly introduces you to various aspects of the game, including like the new skill battles, which you have a group of 3 characters that can do like HP recovery because it now has HP bars now, or do more gigantic attacks. And basically by participating in both the story mode battles and online, those characters level up and those skills become more powerful. So when you play, for example, a friend who just picked up the game, they are significantly under-leveled against you.
Is there no way of turning the levels off?
So they can still activate like the various moves, but they won't be as powerful as somebody who's at, say, level 10. Which is absolutely crazy. Like Puyo Puyo is far more like combo based, and Tetris is far more line based, which still creates moments where there is separation on how the garbage is separated. And they didn't really do a good job of fixing that. Like, there's still moments where it can be significantly unbalanced.
Yeah.
But the online is pretty solid. There's a bunch of modes to play. They made proper lobbies for most modes now, which is a stark contrast to the previous game, where it was just a few limited modes and the rest was just play by ear. And they have now fully ranked modes for like 3 different options, I believe. So there's far more to play with if you're into that sort of stuff, and if you are significantly into puzzle games. So I think there's good strides made to make it more of a fuller package overall. If you have the original, it kind of depends what you're looking for. But if you're looking for the overall package, I think it's overall pretty much better.
Okay. Yeah. But it's if I have the first one though already, as well as Puyo Puyo Champions, is there any reason to pick this one up at least for full price?
Once again, it kind of depends on what you're looking for in a sequel, because once again, I think the single player content is far more improved than the original, and I think the online aspect of that game it's much more laid out. But essentially, you know what you're getting because you already know the gameplay of Puyo Puyo Tetris.
Yeah, that's good, because I actually kind of enjoyed the single player stuff. The story wasn't anything like major, but it had some fun lines in it. There was some fun character interactions, and I think I played about an even amount of the single player and the multiplayer in that game. So if the single player is more extensive and there's more stuff to do in it, then maybe there is more value in actually trying to pick it up, because that was my main thing with Puyo Puyo. Even the first Puyo Puyo Tetris, I had the demo for it, and I was like, the demo is super extensive. There's a lot of stuff to do here, almost too much stuff, because now I'm wondering if it's even worth getting the game when I can just play the demo over and over again. Although I did eventually.
Fair. No, that's 100% fair. I can only recommend to people, like, once again, what are you searching for?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, I'll see if I can find it. I probably won't buy it full price, but it may be something I pick up in the future when I see it for a bit low down and I've got a bit more time to put into it. Because it's not like I don't have a backlog already of games that I should be playing. So
right, and we're also getting sort of in the territory where we also have to recap what happened over these 12 months.
Yeah.
So I actually went back now and replayed a little bit of Murder by Numbers, which is still probably one of my like top 5 games on the year, plus like a Short Hike and I would say Ori and the Will and the Wisps. So I have a good variation on my list.
Yeah, Murder by Numbers is one that I really want to play because it's 2 genres that I really like slapped together.
Murder by Numbers is a distinct taste. If you don't really have anything you like regarding like Picross games, it won't do you any good. But if you are really into Picross games already, and you love like the trappings of like a Phoenix Wright game with the way that the cases are structured and how the characters react in this 90s aesthetic, then it's a real good time, and I love that game.
Nice. So, Corlin, what have you been up to then this week?
Yeah,
What have you been playing?
speaking of revisiting the previous year, I was so gracefully given a review code for the Nintendo Switch version of Doom Eternal, which that that certainly was quite the wait, with a lot of ups and downs.
When did the original Doom Eternal came out again?
March 20th.
Yeah, it's like the week before.
That feels like forever. Yeah,
it was supposed to come out in November, and then they delayed the game. And then they said the Switch port would be like it was indefinitely delayed to like a later point, and then we just heard nothing until what was it?
There's a bunch of shops started
like
canceling pre-orders.
Yeah, when they canceled the physical edition, which that didn't feel good.
So I think we can talk about this now because obviously the game is out, but they sent us an embargoed release date back at the beginning of November, or last week of October, beginning of November, and they said, don't talk about it until this specific date. So we waited, and they said, we're gonna delay definitely, and that was also the same day that leak happened where they canceled the physical versions.
Yeah, man, I wish Bethesda PR liked me that much that they would have told me instead of me having to like hound them for like 3 days straight, going, "Hey, where's my code?"
They botched that so bad though because they clearly already had a release date in place and they waited until the very last moment to announce it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was very weird because they said. They did say where when they did cancel the physical edition, they were like, well, it's imminent, which means like, oh, what, in a week? Like what? Because for the whole what is it, for the whole year they were like, yeah, it's coming soon, like there will be news soon, and then it was just like, what? I think my theory is just simply the fact that due to the pandemic, like Panic Button, the porting team is just a very small team, so they probably just didn't have the gufta to really just kind of like manage and kind of finish it up. Especially because they're also working on other things, because they have to do the Switch port of Warframe, and they got to do the Switch port of Rocket League, and those get updates all the time. So I can see it just being something that just missed its deadline, and then it just kept having to get pushed back. That plus the fact that like the game keeps getting new content. They probably just didn't want to bother with the production like costs of like constantly pushing like a new iteration, like fucking executable of Doom Eternal, and then they were just like, oh well, that's the version we put on the cartridge. They were just like, you know what, it's too late. It's December already. Let's just get the game out digitally now, and we'll figure this out later when probably like the Ancient Gods comes over or something. So yeah, so that was weird, and they could have done that a lot better. And of course, it would make you think that the port is in this like terrible, awful, no good condition that they just have to kind of drop it on the eShop one day. but it's like the best one yet.
Yeah,
it's their best port. It's which is kind of not shocking because the whole bit with Doom Eternal was that it was a game that not only looked better but also ran a hell of a lot better because the engine was more optimized. Just not just like fixing up weird nagging issues from id Tech 5 and 6, but also just to like decrease file size. And so Doom 2016, Wolfenstein 2, and Wolfenstein Youngblood, they all are bigger games and they all like look and run worse than Doom Eternal does, which is like weird to see, but it's also like, okay, yeah, that I guess that makes sense. And I've just been playing through it, and yeah, Doom Eternal's still good.
Yeah. It's a great port, unlike other ports of a game that came out this week on a very amount of systems.
Mm-hmm.
Cyberpunk.
But it's I don't know. I've always said that like the Doom 2016 port was like the litmus test for Switch ports. Like it's like that's going to be the game that you play to see if whether or not you're actually going to be able to stomach playing games on the Nintendo Switch, because you know people get uppity about the Switch version. Also, no, that's wrong. Wolfenstein Youngblood's a great game. You're just like not good at it. But
no, I will tell you straight up, I didn't enjoy Wolfenstein Youngblood at all.
I have 75 hours in it. It is a Kino game. You just,
if you like it, absolutely go for it. Do you? I didn't like a single moment of that game.
But the what was I gonna say? But yeah, 2016 was like the litmus test, because it's like how are you gonna deal with like lower than low texture quality? How are you gonna deal with the 30 FPS cap? And I'm gonna say this in the review because leading up to the Doom 2016 port, I was figuring it was gonna be like when you play Doom on the Super Nintendo, where you're like, this is cool, but like I'm never playing this. This is like not how you should play this game. It's just like it's terrible. But then I ended up being blown away, and the reason being is because to reveal the curtain a bit back, when I play the video game, like when I play video games normally, it's on a PC, and I have a big boy gamer PC. I have a stupid overpriced 240 hertz G-Sync monitor. Like I go all out. I love me some keyboard and mouse. Right until I die. But So I was like, man, I wonder how that's going to go, going from like 200 FPS to 30. And when I went into Doom 2016, I was like, oh, this is fine. Like after a while, like you don't even notice it because like the motion blur is like just good enough that like it tricks your brain into thinking it's smoother than it actually is. Mm-hmm. And then like Wolfenstein 2 is just kind of blurrier. And then there was like that one patch that made the frame rate stabler, but it's fine. It's a shame that Wolfenstein 2 sucks. And then Wolfenstein Youngblood started, and it looked better than 2, but it ran worse because the levels are massive, and they're also like these like high polygonal models everywhere. But like up until this point, like you know. It wasn't uncommon, because I usually play these games on a higher difficulty anyway. It wasn't uncommon for these games to like frame drop to like the early 20s, like 23, 24, 25 FPS when things are getting like really, really hectic. But I don't know, maybe the years of playing GoldenEye have caught up to me, and I'm just like I'm just used to it, and it's like not an issue for me. I can still gamer out if I have to. Doom Eternal doesn't drop its frame rate at all. It's completely stable the entire time. And I was just like, how? It's just like, yeah, it's stable. It's still 30 FPS, but
how's the dynamic resolution in that? Because I played all of Doom 2016 on the Switch, and it was fine, but every now and then it did get a little Vaseline smearing.
It definitely kicks in later levels when things get really hectic, but Panic Button has been tinkering with like a new renderer that I think adds like a sharpening, like a slight sharpening filter over everything. And The reason being I say this is because they did an update to Wolfenstein Youngblood recently that I think added that, because I noted it during the charity live stream that we did, and I was like, why does this game look a little sharper? Like, is there like a filter going on here? And then I'm playing Doom Eternal, and I'm just kind of like messing around with the movement so I can kind of see how the game like visually looks, like just due to like LOD and everything. And I was like, oh yeah, they do have a filter on it. Nice. So yeah, but also Eternal has the benefit of being like bright and colorful, and all the enemies having really good designs. So like even when it drops in resolution, like everything is so clearly defined by how everything is animated and how things move around and how they look. And man, you know, it's when I was getting the review code and I was downloading it, I'm like, you know what, I'm probably going to play on Hurt Me Plenty, because I just, you know, I want to just see how this game works as a port. No, I turned it up to Ultra Violence, which is how I usually play these games, and I've been breezing through it, which I find is weird, because you know, just sections of this game that, like, because I played on Ultra Violence in my original playthrough, and there's like sections of this game where I had to go through it like 5 to 10 times, because it's a tough cookie of a video game, but just like once and done, and I move on, and I'm like, what? Like I know
improved.
I know I have muscle memory because I played this game before, but I'm playing it on a handheld at 30 FPS with Joy-Cons, and I'm still doing real good. And I was like, damn, this is great. So if you're thinking about paying full price for Doom Eternal, like several months after its release, I can't think of a better way to do it than on a handheld like the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, that's the thing, is I would like to have it, but I still haven't played through it. It's part of my hefty backlog, and I think I got it on sale for Xbox One for like, you know, $17 or something, and I just don't have it in me to pay full price to have it again on a handheld right now.
Yeah, which I think is fair when buying anything that late from its original launch, even if it's on the Switch. Like,
if it came out around the same time, I may have bought it on the Switch, just because I think it's neat to have that sort of game on a handheld.
Yeah.
I've also almost bought the Borderlands games several times on Switch, because like those are just because I like the Borderlands games, because they have that, because I've played a lot of MMOs, so it has that you know, real nice and comfy, cozy like mission structure where you're all like, this guy has a question mark, I gotta go get a quest and turn in the quest and just grind out, you know, levels and find stuff. It's just like super simple, like not. I like to have those type of games on the Switch. What I like to call my fiance is watching something on TV that I don't care about games, but maybe I kind of want to pay attention, so I can just kind of play a game that I don't have to think about. So I like those kind of like grindy games where, you know, you do stuff like that.
So yeah, we'll transition from that then, Spaz, into what you've been playing then this week.
Not a whole heck of a lot. I've been I've been sick, and I'm still a little bit sick, but I'm almost 100% right now this week. And then on top of that, I've just been busy with work and Game Awards and other stuff for Source Gaming and just life. I did finally go through Age of Calamity.
Nice.
And I'll have a little second opinion review coming out soon.
Yeah, someone who's never played a Warriors game before.
Yeah, as opposed to Nintendo, whose review started with, "I'm a huge fan of Warrior games." This will be fun.
Yeah, I'm interested to see it.
Yeah, what's funny is my fiance kind of likes the Warrior games, but we played the entire game in co-op, and she's all like, "I don't know if I like this one that much," and I'm all like, "Really?" And she's all like, "Yeah," like she's like, "You have to hit the triggers too much to like
too much stuff to do."
Yeah, like seriously, that was her thing. She's like, "I don't play these games to have to think about things."
That's an interesting take.
That's interesting, because I love the variety of the battle system and
yeah,
Age of
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
too. And I say I've never played a Warriors game, but I've played whichever one launched on the 3DS.
Oh god.
There are more than 6 that launched on the 3DS, my guy.
Well, no, I mean when the 3DS launched, when it was one of my launch
Oh,
titles for the 3DS.
Samurai Warriors Chronicles.
Yes, that one. And I was not really a fan. And I thought it was
To be fair, Chronicles wasn't that great. I mean, it was only played that much because it was a launch title for 3DS, and it was a pretty big content-wise game. But
yeah,
as far as like actual content is concerned, it was pretty bare bones.
Yeah, and I mean not to give away my entire review right now, but that was something I was expecting it to be a little bit more bare bones, and I was very excited that not only were there a lot of options as far as combat, you had your parries and your flurries, and you had your wands and everything. I thought that was very cool. And then you also had so much side content. Like every time you finish a mission, like 8 other things would pop up. Yeah. So so I did, like, spoiler, I did end up enjoying the game a lot. But I think it's funny that my fiance was all like, this is too much. Let's go back to Warriors Orochi or whatever, and just.
I think what the good thing about like Age of Calamity is, and I don't have really stated it enough, there's less bullshit from the other modern Warriors games. Because I enjoy Modern Warriors, I enjoy it very much. But for example, the last couple of the Nintendo ones, their main issue was they had then the main story, which was multiple chapters long. But and beyond that, the main problem with that game is you also had these long list of history maps, which each had like 20, 30 missions, which would take you multiple hours to beat. I remember seeing a video of the completionist, or him stating it on Twitter, that seeing everything in Highway Warriors Definitive Edition took him about 200 hours.
Yeah, it took me like 400.
And I think that might be, yeah. But I think that this game in particular, like Age of Calamity, is much more straightforward with its unlocks and what you need to do to get them, which is also makes it much more fun in return.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just to move on from that, the other game I've been playing, and I think part of it is because we've got that Ghosts and Goblins reboot, which was exciting and then sad, and then you look at it again and you're like, no, that's pretty cool. Those were my emotions. We're like, yeah,
roller coaster
okay, yeah. That's where I think part of it too is the frame rate on, and we'll talk about the Game Awards obviously in a minute, but I think the frame rate on that on the actual stream made it look choppier than it actually is. When you go and watch the direct video, it looks smoother, and the animation style is a little weird. I think on our live reaction, I'm all like, this looks like a shitty Flash game from 2005. But the animations for it are kind of like, they look kind of like cutout dolls, and I think it was kind of to match up with the style of the way the sprites were in the original. So I get it. I don't
like.
Yeah,
I know a few people who have that same sort of opinion. I think when I watched it, because I didn't watch it live on the Game Awards because I was asleep, but I watched the trailer afterwards, and I like the style they're going for, that kind of sort of medieval art-looking style. But I think the animations of and Arthur specifically, I think his animations look a bit strange.
But and I think the reason they look strange though is because they're trying to copy the animations from the original game, and it's weird. Mm-hmm. But it's not. But yeah, I think it'll be good. But anyways, because of that, I'm all like, man, maybe I should go play some Ghosts and Goblins. And I said, you know what's way better than Ghosts and Goblins? Demon's Crest. I started playing through Demon's Crest.
You're not wrong about that.
Yeah, like Demon's Crest is one of those games that should be considered much higher, I feel like, on most people's like all-time greatest Super Nintendo games, and a lot of people do, but I also feel like it's not at that same level as like some other games, and it's such like a cool, interesting game. And which, by the way, since most of you have the Switch Online, you can go play it from the Super Nintendo library from Switch Online at any point. And it's kind of like it's kind of Metroid, like a Metroidvania style game, but it's split up into levels, and then the overworld is very much like Mode 7 JRPG, like you're on your airship in Final Fantasy, because you're you're flying around to like different like levels and different world hubs, and then in those levels you can attack them in any area, but you're going to come across things that you can't necessarily do without upgrading your abilities. So it's a really cool game. It plays great, and it's literally one of the best looking Super Nintendo games. Like, and it starts off with like a boss fight that looks amazing like within the first 30 seconds. So if you haven't played that game and you're just looking for something to play and not spend money on your Switch, like, do it. Play that game.
Cool. Well, I think that's a good way and that's going to be a way anyway. I'm going to force it into being a way to transition into the Game Awards stuff, because
you mean the Keeleys?
Yeah, the Keeleys.
Oh yeah,
the Jeff Keeleys featuring Naughty Dog is
That sounds about right, to be honest.
Yeah. It's the big award. I actually, I think my friend had the best name for it, the VGAs, the video game adverts. Because that's what it basically is now. I only watched the first hour and a bit of it, because it started at like midnight for us, but I still think I caught like over half of the awards, because the pre-show was just stacked full of them. And I think there's got to be a point where if the pre-show to the awards has more awards in it than the actual awards,
dude, yeah,
is the awards even the focus at this point?
They're such a small part of, like, you can tell that they're so marginalized that they want to get them out of the way. And now here's 3 awards. Now here's a celebrity. 3 awards.
Yeah.
2 trailers.
It's like 4
they do them, like,
world premieres back to back.
Yeah.
Of course, I enjoyed that trend of continue to put all the esports awards on the pre-show.
Yes. I mean, I'm fine with that personally, but
You know what? Esports should have its own award show, because it's such a different audience from gaming in general. And I'm not saying that it's not important at all, because obviously it's very important to a lot of people, and it's a very big industry. It makes a lot of money. But it's, I don't know. It's because gaming is a medium, is both a form of competition, it's and it's a form of storytelling, it's art, it's so many different things. So it's weird. It's weird to try to put it all into one show. And I think esports is very, very much its own thing and could carry its own show with its own audience.
I agree with that. Sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I definitely don't want to see it in the Game Awards, because I don't care.
Yeah, I agree.
Personally.
I think it's weird the sort of get the awards they chose for the pre-show, because like I feel like best score,
best RPG in there.
Yeah, they had best family game, best RPG, best fighting game.
It's been on the pre-show 3 years in a row, my guy.
Yeah, I mean, all right, the genre ones, sure, although that's still a bit strange to me. But like best soundtrack should absolutely not be in the pre-show. That should be in the main show.
Sure.
Did The Last of Us win? No, Final Fantasy VII. But Last of Us won best
action game
sound design.
No, yeah, best audio design.
Best audio design.
Best audio design. Okay, I guess because the clickers are cool or something. I don't know. Okay.
I mean, there's a lot. The Last of Us basically won tons of stuff.
Everything.
Yeah. Things where they won like best accessibility award over a game that's literally built around accessibility.
Right.
But apparently the accessibility in that game, I haven't played Last of Us 2 yet, because as many of you know, I played the original Last of Us and said, this is an overrated game. I will play Last of Us 2 once it's on sale for $15. And once it hits $15, I will play it.
All right, let's just go.
I heard the accessibility was actually really good on that game.
Yeah, accessibility is the one award I think they truly deserve. Because I am partially handicapped with my balance and stuff, so I really appreciate what people are doing in terms of accessibility, and I think it's cool that the award is actually there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the award is one that should be there.
Last of Us Part 2 had the most sliders and options of almost any given game. It's even possible to play that game basically blind, I believe.
Interesting.
The problem is with the rest of the category, having 2 Ubisoft games is not really a high standard because they have pretty basic accessibility options. And Grounded and Hyperdot definitely deserve to be there, but it was a clear winner that Last of Us Part 2 was going to win that in that specific case.
I loved how when they showed off, like, they were like best accessibility, and it was like one of the few categories where they actually showed like a snippet of what the hell they were talking about, and all they showed for Watch Dogs Legion was like, you could change the color of the crosshair, and I'm like, you can do that in fucking any game. What?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Ubisoft's accessibility options are substandard, and somehow they got 2 games in this category.
Yeah, I think that's a problem.
silly.
That's an overarching problem with the Game Awards, but it's something I want to talk about at the end. Don, what were you saying before about? Should we go through this award by award?
I will go through the winners quickly for you, and
Okay.
if you want to say something, just speak up.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's start with Game of the Year, right? Last of
Okay.
Us Part 2.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, I disagree with it. Although I haven't played The Last of Us Part 2, to be fair. But I just like Spazzy, I played The Last of Us Part 1 and thought it was incredibly overrated. And nothing from Part 2 looked like it was better than that. I still think games like Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and even Animal Crossing New Horizons are better games than The Last of Us Part 2, personally. And I would have loved to see one of them win.
But once again, we haven't played it, so I can't say it. But I
I
feel
can't
that.
say it for definitive, but considering my feelings on the first one and my feelings on those 3 games, I feel like they're much better.
Yeah.
I do want to quickly respond to a comment here from Doodle. Escreed let you set stealth and melee combat separately and with full captions, not like it was nothing. I mean, yeah, it definitely did. I set the stealth stat for that a bit lower, but in general, like it's not even close to what those other 3 games offered that were non-Ubisoft related. Okay, but when it comes to Game of the Year, I preferred all 5 other options than The Last of Us Part 2
Yeah.
because I played 5 of them and I really liked all of those 5 of those games. I mean, I enjoyed Part 2, but I wouldn't say it's near the top of my personal games of the year, but that's just me.
Yeah, I don't think it. From what I saw, and Dan, since you played the game, it didn't seem that it was doing really anything different, except for maybe narratively from the first game.
I mean, it took some interesting pathings in like its narrative.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that I.
I'm talking from like a gameplay or presentation standpoint. Was it really any different from the first game?
Not really. No.
One of the things I did hear that they did improve in this game is that the AI actually do feel like they're there in the environment. Like your allies, like they will actually sort of fight back or people will react to them. Because that was a big issue I had in the first Last of Us.
Yeah.
You're having to hide from stuff. Meanwhile, your allies are just walking around casually like nothing's going on. And it's super jarring. But this one apparently did fix that issue. So
yeah, because they want you to be so invested in the narrative in this game.
Yeah.
Which makes it, I've said this before, it makes it hard for you to play it as a game because if you're going around crafting and looking for stuff, your AI partners were always walking 10 feet in front of you, telling a story you don't care about because you're looking for a can or something. Like, it's just...
Yeah, I just feel that, like, Doom, Animal Crossing, Hades, and Final Fantasy VII Remake were, like, ingrained with how 2020 progressed. And I also really enjoyed, like, Ghost of Tsushima. I didn't see too much about it, but it was a big surprise to me, and I really enjoyed it for what they did. And they still continue to give that game, like, free updates now and again, even. My problem with The Last of Us Part 2, and I'm not stating here it shouldn't be there, because no, it's a good game. It's just not really my cup of tea.
Right.
And that's what I really say to it.
I've been meaning to check Ghost out, but there, I don't know. It just everything that I saw about it pre-release seemed like there was nothing special about it, but people seem to really, really like that game.
Yeah, Ghost was a surprise to me. I really like Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, I think it's just one of them games that's very standard. Like, it's a good AAA game, but there's nothing in it that's controversial. There's nothing in it that's super outstandingly amazing, like that does something different, but it's still a good game. There's nothing you can complain about it. There's nothing you can really hype up and go super big about it. It's just an enjoyable game, which is great, because that's what games should really put first and foremost, being fun to play.
What I found impressive about Ghost of Tsushima is that I really built like this real Japanese word. I put my language option of the spoken language into Japanese, and they've done such a good job with that game. Sucker Punch.
Nice.
I think honestly, Sucker Punch's best game.
Nice.
I really like Ghosts.
Nice. Be one I need to try.
I'm of course a little biased because my baby boy, my baby girl of the year did not get nominated for Game of the Year, which is Half-Life Alyx. Cause fuck you guys. But
because VR is the redheaded stepchild of the industry. Nobody wants
which sucks because like Alex is, as I was saying in chat, like it won best VR, but that's like the most gold sticker of an award it could have won.
That immediately brings us to a second award. I think personally, Half-Life Alyx should have won game direction.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, okay, but let me continue with what I was saying. Because I feel like so I've played a bit of Last of Us 2. I didn't play all of it because it's like 20 fucking something hours long, and there's like 3 hours of gameplay in the entirety of the game. So I figured like my time was better spent, playing other games I really wanted to play at the time.
That's fair.
Like Call of Duty Warzone. But it's my issue with The Last of Us 2, like my issue with it winning Game of the Year, just simply is due to the fact that it just feels like a regression. It doesn't actually feel like it's pushing the industry forward in any way. And like, look,
no, I agree.
And look, like Doom Eternal is just like a good boomer shooter. Like I get it. It's not. It's just good game design. And same thing with Animal Crossing, because Animal Crossing, most like diehard Animal Crossing fans will tell you that it's like it's not as up to snuff feature wise as previous installments. Like sure, whatever.
Not feature wise, but I think the scope and scale of Animal Crossing and Doom Eternal make them still deserve to be there, in my opinion.
Yeah, of course, totally. But my thing with The Last of Us Part 2 is that it is a game from 2013 that it does not feel like they learned. It doesn't feel like they have kept up with the times. It feels like it does thoroughly feel like a Part 2 to a game from the late 360 and PS3 era, where game design and storytelling was still done through, what if we just, chat up for like the next 2.5 minutes? And it's like, no, I want to play the video game at some point.
Yeah,
like,
not only that, but the collecting and crafting thing is something that nobody does anymore because it's annoying.
Yeah. And it's just it's one of those things where, and then of course there's all the issues like the actual story itself being not actually all that great, especially if you're someone who, like me, who watches a lot of movies anyway, so you're like, oh, this is just stolen from this movie, and like this has been done a million times before, and like at its core, it's just like it's super okay, but to me, it like represents more of an issue that I have just with the Game Awards as a whole, where it just feels like the reason why it won is because it's like the safest like we are art pick. And I don't agree with that. I would really rather the game that wins Game of the Year. I mean, like it's all superficial bullshit anyway, so who cares?
True.
But it's just like I would just much rather if it was something that like actually felt like a worthwhile new experience and not just a super like contractually obligated sequel that basically does nothing and then just kind of skirts on by because like, oh well, like it looks nice.
Right.
That's honestly really fair. Yeah. Because like to me, I really wanted to see Alex get nominated for Game of the Year, not just because like, oh, it's a new Half-Life, or because like, oh, it's a good VR game, but it's because like straight up a good game.
Yeah, it's a great game. It takes everything that it was given and really crafts itself a really unique experience. Not that Alex is the greatest game of all time, but or even, you know, like maybe I haven't played every game this year. Maybe it actually isn't the best game this year, and I there is something better that I just haven't played.
To be fair, I will back you up on this because I did play most of these games.
Yeah.
The thing is with Alex and what it does extremely well, and why I thought honestly it should have won best game direction, is just there's so many unique elements and things that make it also feel good and fine or fine.
Exactly. It's a Valve game. Valve Polish is back. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
And it's been a while since we've had a game with Valve Polish, and for many obvious reasons. And it's like it's great, it's fantastic, and that's why I think like it winning best VR game, which we'll just get that out of the way because it's just fucking stupid category. Anything that's just best blank game to me is a dumb category because like, you know, I was talking about this last week, but also just generally in the Discord where I was saying like, you know, we can bitch at the Oscars for like excluding genre films because that's like that's that show's problem. Right. But it's also a situation where like having best genre categories is just stupid anyway because a lot of games try to, yeah, because at that point it's just like you couldn't think of anything else like good about these games other than like, oh well, yeah, like it's a fighting game. It's like, what's the point? Which
I think personally sucks for two other games in that VR category, which are Dreams and Star Wars Squadrons.
Yeah,
because they did some.
Those aren't even like, yeah, those aren't even like really true VR experiences. They're just kind of like
really great.
Yeah, no, they're great. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, like they had to pad out that category with just like stuff. Also,
that feature VR. Not VR
also, the problem with Alex was the overpriced VR it came with. My VR headset cost less than my TV. Thank you very much. My VR headset costs less than my current computer monitor. Thank you very much.
Correct.
Yeah.
All right.
I just want to say, I mean, just to echo what the chat has been saying a lot of this whole time for best game direction, and a lot of people have said on Twitter, I don't think a game that had an extensive crunch like this one deserves best game direction because there's clearly not good direction there. I haven't played Half-Life Alyx, but I do think it probably does deserve best game direction. If I was going to give it to anyone else, it'd be Final Fantasy VII.
Not only that, but
just because that director has done some fantastic stuff.
Yeah,
with the Final Fantasy series and remake.
If you look at the criteria, if you look at the criteria, like it says awarded for outstanding creative vision and innovation in game direction and design. So, what does Last of Us 2 Part 2 do as a game? Once again, I'm not talking about the narrative. Screw the narrative for right now. But as a game, what is its game direction and design? What does it do that is innovative in any way?
I don't know.
I don't know.
The only thing,
not really much.
Yeah, the only thing I could think of that would make it stand out in that category is the whole play the game as one character and then play the game as another. But that's like, you know, the villain, do it from both perspectives. But that's like a super
Metal Gear Solid 2.
Yeah, it's a super superficial reason, and it's also not the first game to do that. So it's not a good one.
By the way, Spazzy, Rivers in the chat said I'm playing Demon Quest. Spazzy's suggestions pretty fun. Somebody already jumping into it. There you go.
Rivers is getting in there. Get through Demon Crest as far as you can while we're chatting. Do it.
Damn, I wish I had that power of recommending games and people would actually play them.
Everyone playing Wolfenstein.
The game I recommended was free to most people that are
That's
true. You know what else is free? Rogue Company.
I enjoyed Rogue Company, man.
It's a good game. That should win best multiplayer.
It is a good game, yeah. All right, but shall we move on to best narrative then? With again, The Last of Us Part 2, and again, I mean, obviously narrative can be very subjective, but there was a very clear when this narrative leaked, big disdain towards some of the stuff, and even after the game has like come out, I've seen some videos on it where people talk about the narrative and specifically its ending and how its ending doesn't really match up with the whole themes and everything. Like, you watch the game from Abby's perspective, so you sort of develop and you sort of understand where she's coming from, but Ellie shouldn't know any of this. So stuff like Ellie that does in the sort of later part of the game makes absolutely no sense from a narrative perspective. And I think this is the big flaw that The Last of Us Part 2 has, in that it's trying to do something cool, and the audience, and everything's from the audience's perspective, but characters then act out of character because they're not acting as you would act, and they're not acting as they would act. And it just all falls apart.
This game, but I would say, like, I think it probably would have been better if they had you play as Abby without you knowing who Abby was until you killed Joel, and then go back to the Ellie section and then go back and play because that way you're vested with Abby instead of, because I think the whole point of it is there's this, oh, you're shocked and you hate this character and then you learn to like them. But you already have this,
right?
I don't know, this hate with them. I feel like there's a tonal disconnect with what you do in that game, and I feel like ever since the first game it was like that too, because I remember when I first saw this at E3, I don't remember who in the dev team was talking about it, but they were saying, yeah, the thing is we want this to be a real human experience. It's really about connecting with the people and the emotional experiences that you're going through. And then the very next thing they said is, oh yeah, so you're able to pick up this wrench and just bash this guy's head in with it. And I feel like there was always that disconnect where they're like, we want this to be a cool video game, but also tell emotional story. And I think that tonal disconnect is supposed to be the point of it, where, oh my God, I'm having fun playing this game, but I shouldn't be because I'm killing people's friends and things like that. Right. I don't know if that really works when there's no other choices because the game is so linear. But that's, once again, that's just, I haven't played the game. I really don't feel like I'm qualified to talk about it.
I was surprised. The biggest surprise for me is that 13 Sentinels was in there, which is a great game. Don't get me wrong. 13 Sentinels is the latest game by Vanillaware. Also made what's that game that was on Wii that I really liked, but I always forget the name of.
No idea.
Muramasa.
Muramasa, yeah.
Yeah. And of course, we made Odin Sphere and Dragon's Crown, which I was like, about. That game, that was a part side-scrolling, part RTS game, and I really enjoyed that game. It's really good, but what I'm surprised why it's in narrative is that I found the opening sections a bit confusing, and it gets better, way better after that. But the opening sections of that game are a bit are a bit there.
I mean, so for 13 Sentinels, for me, I haven't played it yet, but I've heard nothing but praise for it due to its narrative. And I feel like that's probably why it should have won. Because if you look at all the categories, it's all the same stuff. The Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Hades. These are all big names. These are all the same names everyone is saying over and over again as the big games. So when something breaks that mold, that it's gotten enough people's attention in a specific category that they're like, yeah, you know what, this game excels because of its narrative or because of whatever. That's probably a really good indication that, yes, it excels because of its narrative, because of its direction, etc. And I think for 13 Sentinels, which isn't a major AAA game from a major AAA studio to be on, but it's also not indie, of course.
Vanillaware is an established developer for years,
Yeah, so for it to break into this category makes me feel like the narrative has to be pretty good on that one. And it's obviously hard to judge without having played it and without knowing what the story is. If I was going off of that, then I'd have to give it to Final Fantasy VII Remake, even though I don't necessarily think that game has the best narrative either, seeing as it's just the prologue to a longer game.
Honestly, Ghost or Hades had the best narrative here.
That's good, then. That one seems like it probably would have a good story.
I feel like the overarching issue is just that all these categories suck because they're just like they're so like blanket and they're so like nondescript. Like best narrative, like what? Like I
think that one's fine to be on that. I mean, you could reword it to be like best script or best plot or something like that. I think this is fancy wording.
I think that's like dumb. I think that's like stupid
Right.
for it to be like best story, because that's like, I don't know, because I hate to, you know, continuously compare to like the Oscars, because I'm a film boy, but
Right.
it's like I would much rather them focus on like I know I'm gonna say like best screenplay, and then someone's gonna be like, isn't that the same thing? And no, not really. Like, it's I would much rather see these categories be more specific towards what the actual like focus is, as opposed to just like you know, like, oh yeah, it's like, what is it? It's like when you see some guy like reviewing like Star Wars on YouTube, and he's like, the cinematography is good, and it's very clear he just has like no idea what he's talking about. He's just trying to say it looks good.
Yeah.
That's what I get from like a lot of these categories, where it's just like best game direction, and it's like, what, like, for what?
Game
What
direction
does that
is really
what does that
nebulous
mean?
because that's a term they use because they use it in things like the Oscars. But then you have a director who's actually, you know, directing the film. It's like, are you talking about how the studio handles things? Are you talking about how in-game shots are? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
There's too many cues taken from terminology that's being used in film and film awards without any of the context, and it's weird.
Right.
Yeah.
I do need to comment on Rivers here saying 13 Sentinel is fucking Kino tells 13 stories at the same time, chronological order, and still makes sense. Yes, it does. It takes it all out of chronological order. But it made it kind of confusing at the beginning. It still had a great narrative. It deserved to be there. Let's move on.
Yeah.
And I'll say this. I'm actually fine with Last of Us Part 2 winning narrative, because that narrative, it got people talking. And that's something, man.
I mean, I guess that's a worthy of a reward, I guess.
I suppose.
Yeah, I would have put Animal Crossing on there, because I did not see that Joe Biden twist coming. That was
I can't really say too much on the narrative category, because the only two games I actually know like the actual like plots of, like full plots, are Last of Us 2 and then like the Final Fantasy 7 remake, and then I haven't played Ghost, I haven't played 13 Sentinels, and I haven't played Hades. But it's like the one category this year that I have like no horse in any race. But as I said, my
Constitution didn't really have one.
but it's yeah, but my issue again is just like, I don't like the category itself. It's such a stupid nebulous thing.
Yeah, going real fast to what you were saying, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. Final Fantasy VII Remake's a great example of that, because the narrative was already there, the story was already there. If you're talking about the script, then there's a new script. Is that script good, or are you talking about the overall plot and how it progresses? So
Sure.
I get what you're saying. It needs to be clear, and I agree with that. With both of these.
Yeah, because Hades is a good example of this, because I wouldn't say the story of Hades is particularly strong. It's very literally just main character's mum left Hades a long time ago, and now main character wants to leave Hades to join her, but Hades doesn't want that. And that's literally the plot. But the world building and the character interactions and dialogues are very strong in that game, and that's what people like.
And world building is something that you could have a great award for, because that's something that is much more unique to video games as a genre.
Right.
Because sure, there's world building, and like, let's say you're watching The Mandalorian, they do such a great job in getting you invested and adding new worlds and blah 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 blah. Sure, but in video games it's different, because there's always the main narrative thrust, and then there's the world building that you can pick up in something like Metroid Prime, where you're always scanning things and understanding the world. And it's a different genre, so we shouldn't just I get you. I get what Colin's saying.
Yeah.
Now, when you really
let's swiftly move more through this.
Yeah.
most anticipated game won by Elden Ring from Front Software and Bandai Namco.
Yeah, the game that no one's seen anything about, but like, all right, sure.
Yeah, the game that we're like, is Winds of Winter going to come out before it? Let's find out.
Yeah.
Literally, like this. I get it because hype, but this should not be a category, because Elden Ring we've seen literally nothing of. God of War sequel we've seen literally nothing of. Halo Infinite we've seen 5 minutes, and the final game will probably not even look like that. Horizon Forbidden West we've seen a pre-rendered cutscene of. Resident Evil Village, we've seen
My guy.
a guy really playing it terribly, and then Breath of the Wild sequel, we've seen a cutscene of. This is such a fucking stupid category.
I mean, I feel like
we live in a world. We live in a world where people pre-ordered cyber. Yeah, we live in a society where people pre-ordered Cyberpunk 4 years ago and now get really pissed if the reviews don't match up to their expectations because they paid off a game in full 4 years ago before it existed. That's what we live in, this hype culture. That's it.
By the way, I feel bad. This is a side note. I feel bad for the people who purchased the big special edition for just straight up a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One and realized that game cannot run like shit.
Yeah, that's really bad. The way the PS4 and Xbox One versions run of Cyberpunk is just not acceptable.
Yeah, and people are like, well, you should have bought the new systems. A, you can't. Like, it's difficult to buy the new systems. B, people once again pre-ordered this game like 4 years ago.
Yeah, this game wasn't announced for next-gen systems.
Yeah, this game was announced like so long ago. Jeez.
But can you imagine when this game would have come out in April if it would have been worse? This entire situation.
Yeah. Oh man, no wonder they delayed it. But going back to the category, so most anticipated game and player's voice are the two categories that I don't really take seriously in any way, because those are the two ones that the entire fan base basically votes for. Like, most anticipated game got votes by Twitter DMs to the Game Awards Twitter account. Like, these are clearly just not the ones chosen by anyone within the actual industry, but just fans who are unnecessarily hyped for stuff. And you're right, pretty much half of these we've barely seen anything of, or seen like a PNG logo or something of. And Resident Evil Village is the one we've seen the most of, and it's really still not enough to really get. But it is about hype. That's the thing with most anticipated game. It's all about it could basically be called most hyped game, and still have the same meaning, same category, like same things in the category. Elden Ring is super hyped because of the people behind it, and that's clearly bigger for people than a Breath of the Wild and Halo Infinite. That's all that this award is polling. Yeah. And from that angle, these choices all make sense. But again, because it's all fan votes, because it kind of has to be for most hyped game, it's it's not one I necessarily take seriously. And just covering off player's voice at this same point, which Ghost of Tsushima won, which I suppose in hindsight is a good thing. I'm still super disappointed with this. I'm just super disappointed with this category because I feel like player's voice is the chance for a game that hasn't been recognized by the industry but feels like it should be. To actually I'm at least
happy that Ghosts won something.
Yeah, no, that's why in hindsight I'm happy about Ghost winning. But when it got announced, because it got announced that it won this before the awards even started, it was like that's
shitty though. Like, you don't even announce it during your award ceremony. You just drop it. It's like it won. Cool. Okay.
Great stuff.
I wish I knew who voted on these exactly too.
Like, I mean, anyone could vote on
the Oscars.
Yeah, you could nominate any game.
I mean, like on everything. Like who?
Yeah, players' voice. Anyone could nominate stuff, and then they polled
like
the
game
top
of the
ones.
year. I mean, like all of the awards.
Okay, so this is on their website and stuff. They get people within the industry, usually journalists.
What's that mean?
Well, like usually journalists, and then a few people who I think actually work at games companies, not ones that. Yeah, I don't think Neil Druckmann was there being like, "Oh yeah, Last of Us Part 2, definitely."
I will say, I will explain. So when these choices are made, they ask people, so journalists from all over. There's, for example, a judge in every European country. I think there are a few more in the UK, but every other European country has like one or two judges. In America, they ask for most the top 30 outlets when it comes to games in America. So they all get together. They send in their applications for nominees, and based on that, the lists are made.
Yeah, Jeff himself doesn't actually vote or nominate anything. It's all left to the people who he asks to, who get decided to do it. And I feel like this is a bigger problem in the video game awards, and it's what I want to touch upon at the end. because I think this leads into the big issue I have with all the nominees and all the awards and the repeats we're seeing over and over again. But again, I want to leave that to the end. Let's move on to best art direction, which I think is next.
River they have the
Ghost one.
listed.
Hey,
Spazzy, best art direction. Ghost of Tsushima won that one.
Okay, so I have a question about this. I haven't played Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah.
Don has. Does it deserve it?
It does deserve it for the way the world is built and the world is designed. It's distinctly old school Japanese, and it's really well done. As it comes to, because once again, this is the problem with the way they phrased this award. Like, if you would ask me pure based on the way that the art style was created, then obviously it would have been Hades or Ori. But if you are telling me it is more based on how the world is built and the world is building, then I do think that Ghost of Tsushima is a pretty decent pick.
Yeah, I do think Ghost of Tsushima deserved to win this one. Again, I haven't played it either, but I have seen videos, I've seen screens of it, and it's a very pretty game, and they've established the world pretty well. They've made everything look, at least from what I can see, as someone who doesn't live in Japan, they've done a pretty good rendition of what that sort of feudal Japan era would look like. And it looks like a pleasant game to watch. It's not as stylized as Hades or Ori, of course.
No, but obviously not.
But it's still got pretty good art direction, as I would define it. So I think Ghost of Tsushima does deserve that category for sure. Now, I don't think, again, Last of Us Part 2 should be in this category because I don't see what art direction it has at all. But I think the other three do deserve.
Yeah, how the heckins did The Last of Us Part 2 get in best art direction?
Yeah, Paper Mario should have been in best art direction, to be entirely honest.
Actually, probably, yeah.
I feel like best art direction is because again, there's no like real context or anything given. I think it's just their way of just saying like best graphics. Because like because again, like like there's no like rhyme or reason to any of this. It's just like all the nominees are completely fucking random. Like honestly, like there's not really like Hades and Ori are like 2D games. Like Ghost of Tsushima and Last of Us Part 2 go for like a realistic look. Final Fantasy VII looks like Advent Children. It's like it's just like a situation where it's like, okay, what is the category actually for, and what do you mean? And is there a more technical way you could have put it, or should they have, broken this up? I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it's like you could have gotten rid of some of these categories that no one would.
By the way, Last of Us 2 doesn't go for realistic. They went for depression.
You got me there. But I feel like they should be splitting up stuff like best art direction into multiple categories, especially for such a visual medium, because hey, I mean the Oscars do it. So like it's so weird. There's no way to like gauge, I feel, anything from this stuff other than like it's the prettiest one
game. Yeah, I feel like they just took the Game of the Year winners and slapped them in here, and then took Animal Crossing out because it didn't belong in here, and said, "Oof, we probably need to put Ori in there because it's a really unique looking game." That's basically what they did.
Yeah, I mean, so this Colin makes an interesting point, because obviously the next two are best score in music and best audio design, and they clearly had the foresight to split those two up because they mean completely different things, but they're both around sound. And I do feel you're right. Best art direction should probably be split into two categories as well. I don't know how I personally would state them, whether it be best graphical fidelity and best art direction or something. But
I think you could very easily just like use the Oscars as a framework and then just readapt each category for game design. Like instead of having like best costumes and makeup, just swap it out with like best character design or something. Mm-hmm. Or just like world building, like things that I think are like obviously when you put them on paper, like it sounds a bit weird, but they're at least more technical. They're a lot more descriptive. They're a lot more kind of adhering to what these awards should be for, as opposed to just like a thing you can slap on the box and say like, yeah, some fucking guys from Kotaku said our game was really nice looking.
Yeah, I like things that are more in line with gaming and have to do with gaming. And
That's why the next category is stupid. Best score and music, because they were like, "Oh, fucking Last of Us Part 2, it's a licensed soundtrack." So
why would like?
I mean,
that one.
No,
I've actually listened to all of these soundtracks. I haven't played these games, but I did while I was working because the Game Awards were coming up. Listen to it. I have no idea how Last of Us Part 2 got on there. Like, I really don't.
Yeah. So I think this category is fine. It's basically best OST, and this is one of the few categories I think is definitely should be there.
It might be my hottest take of today, but Dreams had a better soundtrack than The Last of Us Part 2.
It's true. Yeah, like Ori has a really classic, awesome soundtrack. Hades is great. Doom Eternal probably would have won this for me, but Final Fantasy Remake has some remixes that are complete bangers, and I'm happy that it won.
Hey, I'm gonna step out of the nepotism realm and say that best score should have been No Straight Roads.
Yeah. I mean, it's a music. It's a game about music.
Yeah, and all the music is banging.
Yeah,
it's just a shame that barely anybody played No Straight Roads.
Yeah, so it can't be included because I didn't hear that. So,
but
this kind of does.
Hell, even you know what? Even Genshin Impact has a really good soundtrack. I haven't even played Genshin Impact, but I have the soundtrack. It's pretty good. Yeah.
There are at least 30 games this year that had a great soundtrack. Animal Crossing, Doom, what have you. And for some ungodly reason, The Last of Us 2 is there.
Yeah, Paper Mario.
Can you imagine if like
soundtrack.
Avengers Endgame swept the Oscars? Because that's what this feels like.
Yeah.
Again, I'll go into that, but you know, yeah, fuck it. You know, I'm going to take a very mid break in this to just go over why I think this is an issue, because I keep having to bring up that I was going to save it, but fuck it, let's just go now. Mind my language.
Oh, also Paper Mario. How can I forget Paper Mario?
Yeah, Paper Mario's music was great.
For sure.
Yeah.
So here's the problem, I think, with this, with all of this. So when it comes to the Oscars, and Colin, you can correct me if I'm wrong with any of this. But the way it's done is that the judges or whoever will sit down and they'll attempt to at least watch every movie that's come out, and then judge it all based on that and give their suggestions in. And that's fine, because movies can range anywhere between 1 hour to 3 hours. Usually don't tend to go above or below that. And that's pretty doable. But it's not the same case with video games. Some of these video games can take literally hundreds of hours to play through. And there's so many games out there that it's quite literally impossible for the judges to play every single game that comes out in a year and judge them in the same way that someone who does the Oscars can. But I think in particular with how the Game Awards is structured, is that they go to all the top publications and they ask some of the top journalists from each publications to submit it in, and typically those top journalists will only be playing for review the top games that will be coming out that year. So you can't expect the game journalists to play every single game, especially if they've got very limited time to actually put their nominations and why in, which, as I understand this year, from at least what from Jeff Grubb was saying, they didn't really have much time at all to do stuff. So you're getting a bunch of judges here who have basically, throughout the year, played about 20 big games, which all just happen to be the big games of the year: Last of Us, Animal Crossing, Doom, Final Fantasy, Ghost of Tsushima. So they are the ones they're going to nominate, because they can't just go ahead and nominate a game that they haven't played at all. And that's why we're getting into this situation. A lot of the smaller time games might have better OSTs, might have better performances, might have better art direction, but the judges haven't played them. The judges have played the AAA games.
And counter-argument.
Okay.
In Narrative 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim was there.
True, but I mean, there might be enough people there who actually did play that game.
That game came out in September, though.
True, but it doesn't. So did Hades.
It's not enough time to nominate for a Game Award, my guy.
I don't know. Hades also came out in September, and it also got nominated for like loads of awards.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me clarify, because the thing about the Oscars is like, the Oscars has their own issues because
Mhm.
because like the way they get their nominees is it's all the studio's lobby,
Hmm.
which is not great, but I mean, I don't think the Game Awards does the same thing. And then the Academy itself, the Motion Picture Academy, isn't like, whereas the Game Awards are just like a bunch of game journos. And look, I'm not trying to like shit on game journalists. However, the Academy is like a mix of critics, veteran filmmakers,
Yes.
people who work behind the scenes,
what I
kind of below the line people, actors. It is a smorgasbord of people who work across the craft, whereas the people nominating and working on these are just like, yeah, there's just like some guys that give games a number. And
That's what I was getting at when I was talking about who votes for these. Is that
Yeah.
it needs to, when you say industry, it needs to be industry people, not just a bunch of journalists. But yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
go on.
And I get why you do it, but as a bunch of journalists as opposed to people in the industry, because you want to try and avoid bias. You don't want people like the head of Nintendo, Naughty Dog, etc.
Yeah.
nominating
Yeah,
stuff
but you
because they could nominate their own stuff.
yeah, but that's not like that big of an issue considering how many people work in the industry. Like, of course, like the joke would be like, oh, we don't want to put like Neil Druckmann on the judging category, and like, yeah, of course, but also you can just put he's not doing anything, but John Romero on, put Sid Meier on there, put these people who
Will
don't
Wright
have,
on there.
Yeah.
honestly, like, I hate the guy, but put Cliffy B on there. Like, he's not doing anything. Just
That's true. That's true. But people who have made big names.
Roberta Williams,
Yeah. Like, not
Exactly.
the heads of big companies, but like still big game directors, game designers, etc. Better musicians, get them doing stuff for all these categories. But yeah, that's what I think the ultimate problem here is with this whole judging thing, because games are much bigger beasts and they take a lot longer to sort of get in.
What they really should stop doing is rely on individual judges from outlets and let the outlets decide as a unit which games they nominate, because there are more voices in that.
Yeah, I think that would be a better solution, because that way
Yeah.
you get the opinions of you suddenly go from having one guy who's only played like 20 games in the year because that's all he's had time to do, to a team of people who have played literally hundreds and can argue for why they think each game deserves each
make it a
particular
commission.
nomination.
Don't make it individual people, because then you only get like certain biases of games that they personally liked.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing with movies. Yeah, there are different genres, but the way you enjoy them is basically the same thing. You sit down and you watch it, and then you feel things. You might not like horror movies because you might get scared too easily, but you can at least do it. People who play shooters, first-person shooters, and people who play racing games are going to be completely different, and one may have a handle on one and one may not have a handle on the other. People who play fighting games and people who play games like Animal Crossing, yeah, they can be crossover, but at the same time, someone might be super into Animal Crossing and have literally no idea what they're doing in a fighting game and getting completely bodied all the time and not having fun with it. That's
Right.
Hey guys,
that's the big thing with games that blocks everything off too much. So
I think we should kind of turbo through some of these categories, because at the very least, before we go, we need to talk about Sephiroth.
yeah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, so that was my big takeaway from this, and I agree with Don's assessment that it should be entire groups, like entire outlets nominating, not just individuals within the outlets, because that's how you end up with all these biases. You get all these journalists who have literally played the same games, the same 20 games, so of course all the nominations are going to be the same 20 games.
I'll quickly, like I wanted to do two terms. Let's quickly go through them and move on from this. So performance, Laura Bailey, Abby from The Last of Us Part 2.
Sure.
Games for Impact, Tell Me Why. Love that game. Very good. All of those categories for Games for Impact were good.
Sure.
Ongoing game, No Man's Sky, surprise, but
I think it should have
it.
won that. Yeah, I think it should have won that.
We were talking about what the difference between ongoing game is and community support is, and I think that was funny that those are two different categories.
Yeah, it is.
But I think once you clarified it, sort of makes sense, and I do think No Man's Sky should definitely have won best ongoing game.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
What developer is listening to the people and making changes based on that, and the other one is just who is providing more good stuff.
more content.
So indie game was Hades.
Of course.
Debut indie game was Phasmophobia. Mobile game was Among Us.
Which I've still got a huge problem with, the fact that this is a 2018 game and not a 2020 game.
Genshin Impact should have won it, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
this is just like, why don't we just have Chrono Trigger win Best RPG next year? Because, I mean,
should.
clearly it doesn't matter what year the game comes out.
Community support was Fall Guys.
Yeah.
Action game was Hades.
Yep.
Action adventure game, which I found kind of funny, was The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, I don't agree with that one. I mean, the fact that there's a difference between Best Action and Best Action / Adventure is already strange.
You
Just call it
have
Best Adventure,
literally
but-
5 other action games in this category, which would qualify more as an action game.
Yeah.
I would have gone with Fallen Order, maybe.
I was fine with all of them except for the part 2.
Yeah, and yeah, like this one. The sound or the music one and direction because of crunch were the three. Like some of the Last of Us 2, I'm like, that's fine. It's not my game, but I get it. But those three, I'm all like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. RPG was Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yep, sure.
Also,
Final-
Xenoblade should have been nominated.
Yeah, Xenoblade
mean,
should have been
technically-
nominated for this.
Technically, Xenoblade is not a new game, but Among Us was also not a new game. So hey, all
Yeah,
the
Persona 5
stuff is really
Royale.
weird.
Yeah, I mean, Persona 5 Royale sort of counts as a new game, but if we're going to be talking about this, Best Fighting Game, Mortal Kombat 11 and Street Fighter 5 Champion Editions are absolutely not new games
Yeah.
in any way.
Wait, hold on.
Wait, didn't the Ultimate Edition came out this year though?
No, they both came out this year, but they're not new games. Mortal Kombat 11
True.
and Street Fighter 5 have been out for years now. These are just
Xenoblade
re-releases
Remake was a
with
new game
all the
this year.
DLC included.
I mean, Ultimate Inverse is technically a new game.
What, sorry?
Wait, how the fuck did I not notice this? Like when we were going through the nominees last time, Best Action and Best Action Adventure. Suck my dick. What is that?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. But yeah,
Best Action, Best different kind of action.
I know.
Yes, yes.
I know.
Anyway, best fighting
Best
game.
family game, Animal Crossing New Horizons.
Yeah, that's fine.
Best Sim strategy game, Microsoft Flight Simulator. I agree with that.
agree with
Love that game.
Although that's the
Why is
only
Sim and
that's the
Strategy
only
a
sim
combined
game
thing?
in that category.
Why is
Yeah.
Sim and Strategy the same thing? They are not.
I don't know,
They just
man.
ran out of.
I don't know, man. I stopped giving a fuck.
Flight Simulator. Keep going. Sorry.
Sports and racing game, Tony Hawk Pro Skater Plus 1 and 2.
Sure.
I'm not sure why Dirt 5 was already in. That came literally out in November.
Yeah, it's they just didn't have enough sports and racing games, I guess.
Yeah.
By the way, these two categories, I'm sorry, I just want to bring this up real quick. This category is like fucking with me because like they put Nioh 2 in Best Action, but they put like Ghost of Tsushima, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order in Best Action Adventure. Nioh 2 is way closer to those games in terms of gameplay than fucking like Ori and the Will of the Wisps. What are these
Yeah,
categories?
I know,
I
dude.
know.
Will it be, can it get Oscars because it's a movie that had a new version of it come out? Is that how this works?
Anyway, best multiplayer game.
Multiplayer game was Among Us.
Yep. So, I mean, again, it's 2018 game. I don't really feel, but it is the best multiplayer game out of them.
The rest we don't care about because it's esports and content creator.
Yeah, best debut game, Phasmophobia. Sure, yeah, I think that's fine.
Sure.
Yes, so that's the Game Awards. There are big issues with the Game Awards, and this year I think highlighted a lot of the big issues. Stuff's too many of the same judges play the same game, so there's not enough variation. Clearly, some of the judges, and this might just be an issue with how quickly they had to decide stuff, but Among Us to me is indicative of the fact that there wasn't any research done behind some of these games, because it was clearly that some of the journalists who put this forward only heard about Among Us this year because it got popular and just assumed it was a new game that had come out and ignored the fact that it's been 2 years and it's only just gotten popular. I'm waiting for next year when some random 2016 Steam game becomes the new meme, and that gets nominated for Game of the Year, and nobody checks until the announcement's already gone out.
Jeff, if you're back reading through Twitter and you're listening to this, first off, I really enjoyed the Final Hour series. Second, man, you gotta consolidate some of these categories. You either have to take the more technical ones and you gotta split them up. None of this like best performance. You can split it up. You can have a best male and best female performance categories. You don't like no one's gonna scream at you. But you gotta get rid of this like really frivolous shit like content creator of the year, which is like there are so many people making video game content on the internet. It's a stupid fucking category. That's like if you had. It's like when we were making fun of the golden joysticks for having like best like game reviewer. It's like there's literally hundreds. there's no point.
Oh man, I love the golden joysticks.
I don't even know any of these people, and I spend way too much time watching YouTube. Like it's fucking dumb.
Everybody knows that the best action game this year was Super Mario Bros. 3, all right?
Yeah, and then you also like. The esports stuff, I agree it should be its own thing, but you also like best esports game, get rid of it. Like, there's no reason. These are all fucking games from like 20 years ago, and like whatever. It's just like it's a popularity contest.
I feel like it's the same 5 games every year as well.
It is exactly. It's just like the latest Call of Duty, Counter-Strike, Fortnite, League of Legends, and then whatever CS clone. Came out and fell on its face that year.
And Overwatch for a while.
Yeah.
All right, well that's the Game Awards. So let's spend the next
talk about Game Awards, like 20 announcements.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't talk about any of the announcements. We just went over the
time
awards.
For the video game advert section of the thing.
Well, do you want to go? I think we'll probably spend the longest time on Sephiroth. So, do you want to talk about any other announcements that we thought were?
Yeah, Super Meat Boy Forever finally has a freaking release date. It was announced in 2014 for crying out loud.
Oh, did it actually? Because this is the thing for me. I didn't watch it live other than the first hour where I was on the stream with you guys, and then a tiny bit because I was chatting with Push afterwards while he was watching it, just to talk about Sephiroth really. So I missed most of the big announcements, but when I logged in to Twitter the next day, the only 2 that I'd seen were the Ghost and Goblins one and the Capcom arcade thing.
You didn't see Vin Diesel fighting dinosaurs?
Nope. They're the only 2 announcements I've seen, so I didn't even know Super Meat Boy Forever got a release date.
Yeah, so Super Meat Boy Forever is coming out December 23rd. The day before Christmas Eve.
Nice.
After 6.5 years of it being announced. Well, hopefully it will stick the landing, everybody.
There were 2 games that I thought that I can remember just off the top of my head that I thought were cool. And then there were some BioWare announcements that didn't say anything. I thought that Evil West game looked kind of cool. I thought that was kind of neat. And the Evil Dead game looks great. Like, I'm really excited
I saw that. Yeah. For me,
Vin Diesel is an Ark and in an Ark cartoon, both of which are hilarious.
Yes, the entire trailer was for Ark 2, which was kind of weird because we weren't really sure where it was going, and then by the end it's like, yeah, Ark 2 is like, okay. I really enjoyed the road trip game Seasons. I thought that looked really cool. Yeah. Where you would travel around the world. That looks like something that I would really, honestly, super enjoy. Other than that, so there is a game called the Callisto Protocol, which looked very Dead Spacey, which tickled my fancy as well.
Yeah, it actually had some Dead Space devs involved, didn't it?
Oh, yes, it did. Yes, absolutely. And then the other thing that I vividly remember, outside of the one we're likely going to talk about the most, is like the Perfect Dark trailer.
Oh, yeah. The problem with the Perfect Dark trailer is that it didn't show anything. But
yeah,
it was exciting that
still exciting that's happening regardless.
Yeah, I'm happy to see it happen. Anything with rare IPs, I'm happy to see it go on. I mean, this wasn't in the Game Awards, but the Xbox released that sort of little trailer tease thing that looked like it might have Conker in it. Silhouetted,
Yeah.
so that means everyone but Banjo might be getting something on the Xbox Series S.
Yeah,
I'm interested in Perfect Dark, but I have a strange history with Perfect Dark where I own both games in the series and I don't like either of them for some reason, despite being a big fan of GoldenEye, both versions of it. So
That's weird.
yeah.
Yeah, like
Because the first Perfect Dark is better than GoldenEye, but
I agree.
Perfect
know,
Dark
I
Zero
agree
is like not good.
Yeah.
I liked
Wolfenstein
Zero back in the
got-
day when it launched. I liked Zero back in the day, especially the multiplayer stuff. But going back to it now, yeah, it hasn't aged
Yeah, it's rough.
particularly well.
Yeah, but
All my
I'm still
memories are
interested
my
in this.
friends. All my memories from that game are, being a teenager, drinking Mountain Dew, eating pizza, and
Yeah.
one of my friends just always getting me through the wall with that one gun that lets you shoot people through walls, and I hated it. Hated it so much.
But I also find kind of scummy, and it's a super small thing. The Swedish Chef on the Muppets was on the Game Awards,
Yeah.
and they announced that the Swedish Chef was coming to Overcooked, but
Overcooked.
only the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X version with Overcooked All You Can Eat.
Yeah, the version no one owns or plays.
Yep.
Very cool. Very cool.
So not even on Switch. Cool,
Yeah,
guys.
that's
Very
what the
nice.
fuck.
See, I was confused if that was even an actual thing, because they did this last year with Untitled Goose Game, where Beaker was in it, and in the trailer, and you could the goose could scare him. But then this turned out to be something made specifically for the trailer and wasn't actually DLC. So when they did the exact same thing this year, I was like, oh, okay, so I guess this is just a fun little nod. Maybe this is a new Overcooked game or something. But no, this is actually DLC. So I'm very confused at how that was presented.
But yeah, and then EA had basically 2-0 trailers with Mass Effect coming. For the teasers in Mass Effect were pretty clear that it likely is a Mass Effect 4.
Mm-hmm.
Then Dragon Age was nothing shown, but it's now basically, instead of called Dragon Age 4, it's just called Dragon Age.
Yeah. It's like Perfect Dark is just Perfect Dark.
That's all the stuff that I really remember. There's a game that Shadow dropped that I immediately downloaded to my Switch. Still haven't played it.
Which one is it?
It's called... Actually, I have it on my home menu. It's called Shady Part of Me.
Okay. Nah. Oh yeah,
Yeah, I
I
still need to
remember the
play
trailer for that
Bluescape.
actually. I remember
Download.
that.
Yeah. So what's funny about that one is I remember during my reaction to that was, this game looks really interesting. I like the art style. It looks fun, but I swear I've already played this game, and all of these indie games are starting to look the same to me.
It did give me that Limbo vibe.
Yeah, it was very, very limbo-y.
I like the shadow play. It reminds me of that late Hudson game on Wii. I forget what it's called, where it basically resolves about a boy who loses his physical identity, only has a shadow. And it reminded me of that particular game. I was like, oh, I want to play that, and I still haven't done so.
Oh, what is the name of that game?
So I wanted to bring up the Capcom
Lost in
arcade
Shadow.
thing.
It's Lost in Shadow.
Lost in Shadow, okay. I wanted to bring up that Capcom arcade thing because I feel like that is what Nintendo should be doing with like their virtual console service, basically. Like, I know it's good to get the games for free on Nintendo Switch Online, sure, but Nintendo are obviously super slow at updating that to anything meaningful. So I almost would like to see just this dedicated virtual console app that you can go onto and stores all of these old games, and then you can just purchase them through that specifically and keep it all consolidated.
I mean,
there.
it's not a new concept because
it's not,
Namco
no.
has done something similar to this in Japan, where we got the 2 volumes of the Namco Museum. They straight up got an app where you get the first game for free, and the rest of them were just downloadable individual or in packs.
All right, okay.
And they were called the Namcot collection after, of course, their Namcot branding for Famicom games.
Mm-hmm.
But when it first launched, they completely borked it. So if you would download a specific game, it would actually give you a completely different game. So when I was trying to download Pac-Man, I got Galaxis.
Wow.
Galaxy, sorry,
Whoopsie. Yeah, you can only. So yeah, also the Capcom Arcade thing is all 3 packs. You can only buy 3 packs. Is it not the individual games you buy in that? Or okay, from the trailer,
Yeah,
it made it sound
here
like it was...
here with the Capcom one, it clearly says it's only available in packs, and you get 1943 for free.
Yeah, actually you got 1943 for free. From the trailer I watched, although to be fair, I watched it super early in the morning when I was waking up. It looked to me like you downloaded them all individually. Okay, well that's like a half step then to what I feel like Nintendo should be doing, and what other companies should be doing. Their own sort of dedicated virtual console apps. That would be nice. And then yeah, I guess Ghosts and Goblins is the other big game that was shown off. We talked about it a bit briefly before. Cool that it's happening. Yes.
Yeah, and it looks like it takes most from it's just called Ghosts and Goblins, and a lot of the stages look like they're directly from that game. And I think there's little Ghosts and Ghouls in there too. I'm not. Ghosts and Goblins is a series I've played through a couple different games in my life, but I'm not. It's not like Castlevania. It's not like I've played every game and beaten every game in that series. So I'm not. When I see it, I'm like, that's the level from this one and that one. It looks like a lot of it was pretty direct from the old games, but I don't know how much. It looks decent. The art, it's like we said at the beginning, the animation's a little weird, but I'd have to play it to really get a feel for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the last thing I remember was the Monster Hunter Rise trailer, because I'm super excited for Rise.
Yeah.
And Shadow Link was bitching about the graphics compared to Monster Hunter World, and we're like, dude, what are you doing?
Come on.
Yeah.
It looks fine.
Yeah, it'll be fine. But Laura, let's talk about Sephiroth.
Well, the one thing that I think we should also bring, well, we don't have to, but I want to, is it looks like BioWare is trying to bring their 2 big IP back with.
Yeah, I said it earlier. Yeah.
Yep. Cool, I guess.
We'll see how that goes.
I'm not interested in either Mass Effect or Dragon's Age.
I think the biggest surprise to me, and I'm not totally down for it yet because it's kind of depending on who I can play with by that time. But the next game from Hazelight, so It Takes Two, from the people made A Way Out, that looks actually pretty interesting. But I'm still not completely sold on it yet.
Okay.
I'm sold on the basis alone that Brothers and A Way Out are great games.
Yeah, it's they are great games. I'm not sure in this landscape if I'm in the position to really play it with people right now.
Yeah, that's
Cool.
fair.
Yeah.
All right.
Time for Sephiroth.
Yeah.
Sephiroth.
Sephiroth. See, that song has been stuck in my head ever since the trailer. His fun fact: I have watched this trailer more than I've watched any of the other DLC characters from either pass. However, I think Sephiroth is my least favorite character that they've added so far in the passes.
I disagree, because I feel like Sephiroth is really just a Trojan horse because I honestly, one thing that almost ruined Smash Ultimate for me is how bad the Final Fantasy representation is, because the game's supposed to be like this ultimate celebration of gaming, and it has Final Fantasy. But it would almost be better if it didn't have any Final Fantasy, because it's so lacking that you look at it and you're like, aw. So if Sephiroth actually, like, now we have 2 stages, we're going to have costumes, we're going to have spirits. If we actually bring the total song count up to about 10, which I don't know, we might just get One Winged Angel. I don't know. But if we get, I think we will. If we get it to, I'd say the bare minimum is 8 total songs. But if we get it to like the 10 to 12 range, then his inclusion will be worth it, just because it'll make a part of the game feel more complete.
We are very happy to announce that Sephiroth will come with 1 song.
No! Oddly enough, it's not even One Winged Angel. It's a Chocobo remix.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
If it doesn't have one Winged Angel, we're all gonna lose our shit collectively.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, I agree with you on that. On the basis that if Sephiroth's inclusion here is like a gateway to actually getting the Final Fantasy content in this game up to a good standard, then sure, alright, I'm fine with this. Give us the spirits, give us the music, give us that second stage. They might be doing that. Cloud looks like his Advent Children costume has been updated to actually fit Advent Children stuff with the sword and all that, and the new Final Smash that he seems to be coming with. And I mean, I don't think it's gonna happen, but I was chatting with Hero of Winds about this after the Sephiroth reveal, and in the Final Fantasy remake, voice actors aren't union based, which was the big reason why Cloud's English voice actor didn't get into Smash, because he was part of a union and Smash is non-union. So if the remake, if they wanted to, if they really wanted to go that extra mile, it's possible to use the voice actors from the remake for Cloud and Sephiroth, the English ones, and add those into the game, and maybe just have the option to swap between the English and Japanese voices if they wanted to. Maybe Advent Children only has the Japanese option, but the regular Final Fantasy VII outfit has the remake voice. I don't think it'll happen, but the option is there. That's like the full extent that I think they would go.
I mean, I would... Okay, first of all, I think it's cool to get an iconic villain and a third-party villain. I think those are cool things to get. I get where a lot of people are like, but Eggman...
I mean, I'm the same. They're going to have any third-party villain. I mean, Eggman is like the Bowser level iconic villain.
But like Sephiroth is... I saw a tweet yesterday, which was hilarious. They're like, Sephiroth is just Boomer Sans. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah,
but like, yeah, like,
wow,
like, yeah, that's why we want him in. He's a big old name, a villain from a game we really like.
I'm a sad boy now. Somebody said, "Oh, Boomer Stance." What the hell, man?
That's gonna be the name I give him in this game.
But like, yeah, like, you know, people say,
Josh, get out.
But he is kind of like, him and Cloud are both like Cloud is the quintessential spiky-haired anime protagonist, and Sephiroth is the quintessential long-haired big sword anime villain from a JRPG. So they kind of set up those archetypes. So sure, like, you know, and I honestly don't think he would have, like, it was kind of perfect timing, because I think I get the feeling, I don't know, that Square Enix is only interested in providing characters to games if it can help them promote something. Because you see, whenever they have a crossover content for another game, except for the weird times when they use Lara Croft for like a weird mobile game or something. But besides that, it's always like the latest Final Fantasy protagonist. There was all of those rumors that they wouldn't let Cloud get into PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale because they wanted Lightning. Noctis got into Tekken. I think Cloud got in because Sakurai wants an important character, and Cloud's the most requested, and it happened to be at the time that they were announcing the remake. So it's something Nintendo wanted and something Square Enix wanted to promote, and I think that kind of happened again. So I think the timing on it just kind of worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I feel like Hero is the best example of that, because you look at Hero and you can tell that Sakurai wanted wanted 3, and he wanted Erdrick to be the main character. Like that's even the crown, the tiara that that Kirby wears when he steals the power, and he was in the Sephiroth trailer. But he's all like, yeah, no, sure, 11's great, and so he made him but he snuck it in there.
Yeah, the Luminary is the default one, and the content's from 11, but then Erdrick is the one used in the Sephiroth trailer, and he's also the one used in the 2nd anniversary promotional image for Smash as well.
Yeah, and he definitely in that. And I want to talk about this trailer and the Sephiroth trailer together in a minute. But he definitely in the Hero reveal trailer got like a pan up Hero shot where they're all like, "Yeah, this is a real guy. He's come to save the Luminary. Look at him, isn't he badass?"
He has that whole shot with the light shining on him, and he's in silhouette.
Yeah. And when you watch Japanese reactions to that in particular, people freak out when they see him. It's because he's the most recognizable character.
Yeah, he's the reason why I thought he would be the default one, because Erdrick is the default RPG hero, the one that everyone always parodies in like any sort of media when they're covering Dragon Quest. and he's
I
got the longest
I
staying
will
power.
literally be like the person who reacted the most to this because I'm a massive Dragon Quest fan. So when that moment happened last year, I didn't show it much on stream because I was streaming with Roger back then. But inside of me, I was losing my collective shit altogether. I was like, wow, 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 wow. That was the most hyped I've been for Smash Guy. I will be the only in that because people were way more excited during that presentation, even for Banjo-Kazooie. But for me, I just completely lost it.
I was with you for Hero. Hero was the most cathartic reveal for me because I've been saying for like an entire year at that point that Hero was absolutely, definitely coming to Smash, if not base game, 100% DLC. And the amount of people I had telling me that I was wrong and it wouldn't happen was ridiculous.
I think the only mixed opportunity in Hero in hindsight is that it didn't have like at least one of the female alts. One because the one of the protagonists does have a female alt.
3 and 4 have a female alt.
Yeah.
I almost feel like the reason that didn't happen.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like the reason that didn't happen is purely because 8 and 11 don't have female alts. So it'd be like 6 male alts and 2 female alts randomly, or you'd have only 3 games represented because Erdrick would just get 2 male alts and 2 female alts instead of giving it to 4. And he wanted to represent as many games as possible. I feel like that's the only reason.
and 4 would have also probably should have gotten a female alt as well. It would have been weird.
Like this way, it covers all 4 timelines, I guess, of Dragon Quest.
Yeah, I really like this. And Zippo said this was their most expensive trailer. And yeah, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. For sure. 100%. Yeah.
I mean, just making up for the fact that Cloud didn't get a CG trailer.
That's the thing. Cloud finally has a CG model in Smash. This is the first time we've seen it.
Yeah.
I'd imagine because they didn't want to pay to use his likeness before, but they're like, well, we have to use it now. Let's go. Well, let's go all out. And this trailer was done really well. It transitioned from gameplay to CGI several times in a really cool way. It bit really hard on Advent Children.
Yeah, I was going to say, this trailer is clearly it confirms that Smash Brothers is canonically tied to Advent Children as a sequel.
I'll be honest, I never watched Advent Children. I only played the game, so I cannot talk about that either way.
See, it's okay. No one watched Advent Children.
I've seen Advent Children, and I've not beat Final Fantasy VII, so...
I've seen Advent... I own Advent Children on DVD, but the thing is, people... I mean, during our reaction, people were like, you didn't mention all the stuff from Advent Children. I'm like, well, number one, we were just talking about how cool Sephiroth was. We weren't, like, breaking it down.
Yeah, we weren't analyzing the trailer live,
Yeah, that's number one. Number two, like, I haven't seen that in 16 years. It came out and I watched it like 3 times. I sold my DVD back to Movie Stop or something, and then that's it. You know, like I'm not one of those people that obsessively watched. And that's the other thing. Like, I beat Final Fantasy VII back in like 1996 or 97. Like I have not touched the game since. So people keep bringing stuff up. I'm all like, yeah, that sounds familiar, man.
I mean, that was my thing. Having not beaten Final Fantasy VII, I don't know what is a 7 reference, is a remake reference, or is an Advent Children reference. It looks that like was all Advent Children, but stage, I didn't know. Except for the stage, that's 7. Yeah.
Well, the stage is definitely from right, but like it's where you fight Genova and right before, because the platforms look like the area, I guess, like kind of right before, if I remember correctly. And then you see Sid's ship. Is it actually called the Highwind? I don't remember anymore.
Yeah, the Highwind. That's cool. That's correct. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So you see his airship, which I think is a reference to the end cutscene where Meteor's coming and Holy is coming, and then the live stream. So I think that the last stage, and once again, dude, it's been so long since I played the game. I guess the last stage is a reference to maybe it might even include.
Yeah, the stage of Sephiroth seems to be like it travels through various environments because the shots are completely different in each case.
Yeah, I think from what I've seen,
but it looks like the ending sequence of the game is what.
I think it transitions through the various.
Was definitely in Windmaid's cave though, like with all the green mist and everything.
I think it just transitions through the various stages of like the Genova fight. Like, I think you start off outside and then the meteor hits, and then you travel through the cave, and then you end up where where all the fucking live stream looks in the Genova stuff, and then Genova's final form appears in the background, and then I don't know what they're going to do to transition it back to the start again from that point.
Yeah, because you see the meteor coming down and crushing. I'd assume is Midgar.
Yeah, that seems correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's just, which is interesting because we've because the original stage is obviously the very beginning of the game, and this is the very end of the game. And I don't think can you think of any other Smash stages that are directly reference the end,
beginning and end of a game? No, not off the top of my head. I mean, other than
I guess
Pokemon has
Dracula's throne room is, I guess, from the end of Castlevania technically.
Yeah, and Pokemon does the Elite Four for both Kalos and. In fact, yeah, Pokemon X and Y you've got both Luminos City, which is not the exact beginning, but pretty early on, and then has the Kalos Pokemon League, which is the very end. So that's one. And Kirby as well. Kirby has Green Greens, which is the start, and then Fountain of Dreams, which is the final part, the penultimate boss stage.
I want to say real quick, King of Games said what you said about Square only doing stuff to promote. What about Lara and Brawlhalla? I specifically said, except for Lara Croft and random stuff. I don't know why, but she gets used all the time and everything. But I have a feeling that some of the marketing and licensing that comes out of Eidos, the former Eidos people, which is now called Square Enix West, I have a feeling that they're separate. That the licensing part of it is separate. But I don't know. Could be wrong.
Yeah, the Eidos stuff is different.
Yeah. It seems like they use them differently to me, anyways.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, but so with this, I think what's interesting with the Sephiroth is what of Final Fantasy VII will it actually cover? Because the stage is clearly only taken from 7, the original, because Remake hasn't reached that point and it's not in Advent Children.
No.
But all of the trailers, everything Sephiroth does in the trailers, etc., is all a big reference to Advent Children. But if this is meant to be sort of promotional, then it's clearly promotional for Remake. So what stuff from Remake might we see? Like, so this for the spirits, I think I have a feeling we might only see spirits from the remake and not anything. So we won't have the entire party, we'll only have the party that appears in remake, because I think Tetsuya Nomura has no artwork in Smash, and I think that's because it just, for every piece of artwork they have to pay him a bit extra. So they'll probably just use 3D renders from Final Fantasy Remake for the Tifa, Aerith, Barret, and Red 13 spirit battles that I feel like we'll get.
Oh, we're gonna get a Zack spirit battle.
Yeah, we'll get a Zack one, but Zack appears in Remake, so
I know. I'm just saying that. Yeah, and then we'll probably get Chocobo.
Yeah, we'll get Chocobo. We'll get Reno, and I think we'll get that motorbike guy who's new to Remake, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
And that'll be the spirit battles.
I could see that. I don't really know how they're gonna go. I'm actually wondering how his classic mode is gonna be. I think it'd be really funny if he just fought all the JRPG protagonists.
This final battle's gonna end with Shulk, God versus God.
Yeah, man.
At it. Both shirtless. Just going at it.
Oh man.
But yeah, I guess music is the big thing for Sephiroth. Music's obviously the lacking part of Final Fantasy. And with Dragon Quest, all we got was 8 songs, which is still more than Final Fantasy. But when you break it down, Dragon Quest had actually 2 songs from each of the Dragon Quest games represented.
Yeah.
Which still isn't a great sign that Sephiroth might just come with One Winged Angel and the Genova battle theme. And then that's it, with nothing else. I kind of hope that's not the case, even if all the music is from 7 and its various side games. I would kind of like it filled out to have a good amount of music.
BWS show and I saw him say this on Twitter too. He's like, I don't know if there's going to be any more third parties for the rest of the pass, and I don't know why he thinks that. I could see the pass be entirely third parties.
Yeah,
I could see it be first parties too, but. There's no pattern to go. It's not like, oh, we need this fan favorite request. We need this. We need that. No, it's whatever Nintendo and Sakurai decided. We could literally get Dante, Master Chief, and Lara Croft. We could.
Well, I'm already going to suggest that one of those last 3 characters is something from Monster Hunter.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
Sephiroth has changed my perception on two things, and I've had people ask me about this. I think that Geno's not happening anymore.
It's Gino. Gino will watch. Gino will be the highlighted meat fighter
Yes.
costume this Thursday.
Yeah, that's what I think. This Thursday is the ultimate deciding factor for Gino. If he's a Mii costume, which I really feel like he is, obviously that's it. He'll be a nice Mii costume, but he'll be a Mii costume. If he's not a Mii costume this Thursday, I'm pulling a 180 and he's 100% in the fighter pass. But I don't see it happening anymore. On the other hand, Monster Hunter, I think, is very likely now. I was against Monster Hunter for the very specific reason that I thought the whole purpose of this pass was to represent newer series that didn't have fighters and didn't have like their core stuff in Smash yet. And that was the whole point. ARMS obviously had content in Smash, except that it only really had the assist trophy and a couple of spirits, and that's not really a true representation of what ARMS does. Whereas Monster Hunter has Rathalos.
We also need to realize that honestly, like Square Enix had it pretty good. They were the last DLC of Smash 4, and they had a character in both passes now with Smash Ultimate.
Yeah.
Well, Bayonetta was the last third party, but it was released at the very end.
It was saying not at the very last one, but at the very end. Yeah,
it was. Yeah, towards the very end. Yeah, but like, but with Monster Hunter, Rathalos, I think as a boss fight represents the Monster Hunter series perfectly. Like that is how Monster Hunter is all about fighting giant monsters, and so because of that, I don't think there's actually any need for a Monster Hunter character at all in Smash. Not that characters need to have a reason to be here, but the only reason I would see a Monster Hunter character being added is purely to promote Rise, which I didn't think they would do. However, given that Sephiroth is now here, and I feel like Sephiroth is here purely because of remake, not just because of remake, but because he's still an iconic character. But mainly because remake exists and is a big thing at the moment. That's why Sephiroth got chosen over other Final Fantasy characters and other Square Enix characters.
And Rise is a little bit more distinct.
People have been saying that to me for ages. That counteracts why they wouldn't want a Hunter character in. But again, I just thought they wouldn't do Rise purely for the fact that they've already done Monster Hunter, what I think pretty well. And especially with Byleth's moveset, which is already very similar to how I imagine a Hunter playing, I didn't see the need for one. But now that Sephiroth is here, I think a Monster Hunter character is actually very likely. Right. I think Dante has been kicked out of the top spot for most likely Capcom character.
Oh, Doodle, it brings up a nice point. It doesn't mean anything, but kind of funny that both Cloud and Sephiroth both launched in December.
Yeah, it is sort of funny.
Like they're almost 5 years apart.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Exactly 5 years apart.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's cool. I'm still all on that Ryu Hayabusa train. I don't know if he'll be in. I hope so. I'm hoping that
I see a Koei Tecmo character having a high chance to looking at their relationship.
Yeah, same. If I had to sort of predict the last ones right now, I could see it being Monster Hunter, Koei Tecmo, and I still think like Crash Bandicoot still has a good chance of getting in.
My weird feeling, I don't want this confirmed to be honest. I'm a massive fan of this, but I don't want it to happen, to be fair. I think there's also an off chance that it might be a current gen Pokemon.
I don't want that to happen.
Yeah,
I really don't.
I've heard that, and it would be deflating in the same way Byleth was deflating, where like, not that it's a bad character.
I mean, the Byleth was still fun by the end, but it would still deflate a little bit, isn't it?
Exactly. Like when you heard
it, no, I don't think a Pokemon will happen. I think if there's any new Nintendo character specifically that happens, I feel like it would be a Zelda character. Personally, I don't know who. A dark part of me wants to say it's going to be short-haired Zelda from Breath of the Wild 2 somehow, and it'll just be like another Zelda in the game, but she uses the Sheikah Slate to fight, taking a bit from Age of Calamity and then whatever Breath of the Wild 2 decides to do.
I'd be more fine with that than with a Pokemon.
I mean, I would, but that's only because of the fact that the Zelda series feels in a weird representation era where it has all the key characters, but only has like 5 characters and 3 of them are the same, basically. Sorry, 6 characters. But But yeah,
I mean, for all we know, it could be 3 more first parties. I highly doubt it with the way the reveal patterns have been. Is everyone seems to be a big character in a very specific way, and I don't see too many first parties like that. Pokemon's a giant franchise, so I could definitely see Pokemon. I wouldn't bet on it personally.
Yeah. So
going back to the reveal trailer, sorry, go ahead.
Hold on, I was going to say because we're getting quite long, and I know that some of us will need to start heading off. So why don't we actually just start wrapping up now? Unless it's really dire that you want to say about that reveal trailer.
Okay, yeah, no, I what I wanted to say is that I really like Heroes trailer and Sephiroth's trailer because they continue the World of Light story. It makes me sad because we could have seen awesome cutscenes in World of Light and we didn't. Like it's like there's a story that we don't know, and it sucks.
Oh well.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh well.
Also, I don't know what his weight mechanic is, and I think that's gonna. I hope it's not like Arsene.
Yeah,
that's my big.
I guess we'll talk about that when we watch it live on Thursday.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. Done. Do you want to give any closing thoughts?
So I am very excited for Sephiroth. I love the trailer. I thought the trailer was so damn cool. Obviously, we don't know all the inside outs of how the character plays and how it works. We saw a little bit with the One Winged Angel coming into play, and it might be like a way to have a different set of abilities. We don't know that for sure, but there's always a gimmick with the DLC fighters, I feel. So there's a good chance of that there. But other than that, like, I'm very excited for Thursday. I really want to see how he plays, and hopefully it kind of meets my expectations, because my expectations with Sephiroth, like one of the first big villains that I like really enjoyed, like in a 3D game. Hopefully it turns out well by the end.
Yeah, I hope so too. I'm excited for Thursday. We'll be watching it live when it airs, and just talking about the moveset and stuff. I think Thursday's going to need to sell me on Sephiroth, because if it comes with all the Final Fantasy content, I think he's going to be fun to play regardless. He looks fun, but if Sephiroth is that gateway for more Final Fantasy content and stuff, I will be more happy about the fact that he's in, because right now I think it's like a mixture of I wanted new series. I don't have a very strong connection to Final Fantasy VII. Personally, I think it's those two things and that just sort of make me feel slightly underwhelmed by him being in there, even if his trailer is definitely one of the coolest, and if the music is like really good for it. But if it's a gateway for more Final Fantasy stuff and Smash, all right, that's one of the big criticisms I have of the roster and the content in it so far. So this could fix that.
Yeah, I just because I didn't give my actual thought on it, I'm excited for it. I like Final Fantasy. I would rather have had like maybe Terra or somebody from a different Final Fantasy game, but it's exciting to have a villain. It's a series I like and care about, and it's a character I care about. I'm also really excited to see the Mii costumes, because I really want them to do maybe other Square Enix characters, maybe like a Chrono or something if we're super lucky.
Yeah, the one Mii costume that I personally hope for is a Tifa costume.
Ooh, I think we're gonna get Tifa and Barret. I hope we get classic Final Fantasy classes, so you get like a little red mage.
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah.
Black mage costume would be cool. If they do the Final Fantasy VII ones, I kind of want one of them to be like the Akira one, where it's like pure the polygon ones.
Yes, like Polygon Cloud.
Yeah, Polygon Cloud.
Polygon Cloud would be the best. That would be my main Polygon Cloud.
Yeah, like it's got that unique 3D look that I think it would just work really well,
and it would fit with a Mii fighter. It would honestly, if I got a little like Polygon Barret, I would play that more than like realistic Barret that's shrunk down to weird chibi proportions. It fits more, you know what I mean?
Yeah, agreed. That's I kind of hope they do that. All right, cool. All right then. Well, I don't know if Colin has any final thoughts, but I don't think he's that bothered about Smash.
Where's my spirits within representation?
We're gonna get a Steve Buscemi spirit battle. It's gonna be great.
All right, well, thanks guys for joining me for this. Next one is obviously we're going to be live reacting to the Sephiroth thing on Thursday, so we'll probably be doing that on Twitch as opposed to YouTube. So make sure you subscribe to our Twitch.
Someone said Chocobo costume. Yeah, Chocobo, and I think Moogle hat. Sure.
Yeah, sure. So join us for that. Hopefully Sephiroth comes out pretty soon after, so we can stream it as well. I don't know if there'll be a Good Morning Source Gaming over the next 2 weeks, purely because it's Christmas. There might be one next Sunday. If there is, I won't be on it because I'm going to be driving, so I won't be ever around.
You'll be driving home for Christmas.
Exactly. So we'll see if next week's goes, but the one after, I assume there won't be one because that's the Christmas weekend.
Sure.
But yeah, there will be the live stream on Thursday, so look for that. And yeah, have a good Sunday, everybody. Like, share this, comment, subscribe, yada yada yada, and always remember